everyone. Welcome to this episode of Yoga Rebels.
I'm Lauren.
And I'm Burgundy. Today we are going to talk about mental health, really. So kind of what precipitated the conversation is we were going to have a workshop on Sunday, and we're not going to have it now. Not enough people signed up, I'll be honest. But the topic we think is important enough to actually put on this video anyhow. And what's interesting, I think, is that so a lot of our discussions are about disproving things or saying, no, that's not true.
Right.
But we're going to flip it around and say, like, some of the stuff that you're feeling right now, so we're in Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, and some of the stuff that you're feeling right now, that's legit, that is real. So it's kind of the opposite of what we normally talk about. So Lauren, explain your credentials.
Currently I am a master's level social work trainee, so that's my license. I'm about to test for my master's level social work licensure, and I am a counselor, so my focus is mental health counseling. And yeah.
So you're qualified to actually talk about this stuff.
I am, and I'm really excited about it. It's what I like to talk about, whether anybody asks me or not. So it's really nice to be able to do that.
Right. Yeah, and so what I thought that we could do is I will take one of the assessment. What are these things called?
I have
it's not a test.
Today the Beck Anxiety Inventory, and there are a lot of different assessments, inventories out there to test for anything that is typically in the Diagnostics and Statistics Manual. So the American Psychiatric Association has essentially like the Bible of all of the different disorders, personality disorders, anxiety disorders, depressive disorders, all of the things that would qualify as a mental health diagnosis. And most of these use the criteria for whatever the thing is to come up with the questions. So for the anxiety one, they're looking to see what criteria you meet, and if you go over a certain number, it'll give you either low, moderate, severe levels of whatever the thing is. So
now, do you recommend people, because I'm sure everybody can find these online, do you recommend people actually going online, taking it for themselves and being like, oh my god, I have anxiety?
I think that could be okay if your plan is to follow up with a doctor or a counselor. There are a couple super duper easy ones. There's the GAD-7, G-A-D-7, which is only 7 questions for determining if you have anxiety. It's usually used at the doctor's office because one of the nice things about the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, was that they kind of put in mental health screenings into your regular doctor's appointment. So I don't know if people notice that or not, being asked at certain times these questions.
I got that at physical therapy.
Yeah, so that's a new thing that's actually really wonderful, and I hope that it never goes away because I will legit just rage.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting that you point that out because, you know, sort of in the vein of this whole thing that we're talking about, like the depression, anxiety, things like that. So I was in physical therapy for, I pulled my sartorius. And so their questions were in the vein of, how has this affected your daily life? Has this made you feel like I mean, I know that there's some like standard questions that they ask, but it was in relation to the physical thing that I had going on.
That's beautiful.
And it made me think about like, oh my god, yeah, like, you know, because of my pain and the injury, I wasn't able to run, and not running, you know, I wasn't able to work out my physical, but on the flip side, it also made me feel bad because I saw all my other running buddies able to run, and then there's that sort of downward spiral.
And when you're injured, it seems like everybody is doing the thing that got you injured.
Right.
If you get injured running or cycling or whatever
Or yoga.
the thing is, or yoga, that's all anybody's doing, and that's all you can see.
Yeah, and then I'm a failure, I'm useless, I should go out and run. Oh,
Right.
I just injured
Look at all
myself
those
again.
people. They're better than me.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
I do really appreciate that. But the GAD-7 is for anxiety. It's only 7 questions. For any of these, I think they're just a tool like anything else.
Yeah.
So the other aspect of things like this and inventories assessments is that they change, and that's the goal, is that you can use them to track your progress with your doctor, your social worker, your psychiatrist, whatever. The other one for depression is the PHQ-9. That is 9 questions for depression. So GAD-7 for anxiety, PHQ-9 for depression are 2 super duper easy ones. But then I would definitely recommend like printing it out and taking it with you to follow up, because otherwise, like,
Now you're just depressed
the
about
point?
yeah.
Right.
You see your number and you're like, oh my god, I am depressed.
Right. Because these assessments are really easily accessible online now with the internet.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have taken these assessments and they've made them a quiz format where you can just click on things, which is fine, but you want to make sure that you're following up on these things with somebody, because then they can track your progress too, which is really nice.
So we're going to do me then, right?
Yeah. Do you want me to ask you the questions?
Sure.
Okay. So the one that we're doing is the Beck Anxiety Inventory. So if anybody, this is just an aside. So if anybody is familiar with counseling, there's a type of counseling called cognitive behavioral therapy. It's probably one of the main ones that you'll see in research. It's kind of like the gold standard, which there are a billion other types of counseling. Side rant. What's more important is your relationship with the therapist, whatever their credentials are. There are studies that have found that really you could do any type of therapy, but the connection with the therapist is the thing that is going to help you with progress. But this particular one is from one of the founders of cognitive behavioral therapy, and it's just a pretty solid one in general, and it's quick and easy.
Cool.
So,
Okay.
for this one, I'm going to list a thing. So it's going to be some type of symptom, and you're going to tell me within the last month if you've experienced this thing on a scale of 0 to 3. So 0 is not at all, 1 is mildly but it didn't bother you much, 2 is moderately, it wasn't pleasant at times, and 3 is severely, it bothered you a lot.
Okay.
Alright, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, in the last month, have you experienced numbness or tingling in fingers, toes, extremities?
0.
Okay.
No.
Feeling hot when it wasn't hot out, which it was never hot out. So.
No.
0. Wobbliness in your legs, not related to running.
Not related to running, no.
Okay. Feeling unable to relax.
I would say, let's call that actually a 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fear of the worst happening.
Oh, sure, 3. I mean, that's called a Tuesday.
Fear of the worst Tuesdays.
Yep.
Feeling dizzy or lightheaded.
1.
Okay. Feeling like your heart is pounding or racing.
Like 2.
Okay. Feeling unsteady.
Like what kind of unsteady? Physically?
If you're, physically unsteady, like you feel like you're kind of...
I can say 1. Yeah.
Feeling afraid or terrified, so high level.
1.
Okay. Feeling nervous.
2.
Feeling like you're choking, so feeling like you've got a lump in your throat, you've got something stuck in your throat.
2.
Okay. Shaky hands or trembling hands.
Not due to caffeine. 0.
Okay. Feeling shaky or unsteady.
0.
Fear of losing control. Oh, it's a broad statement.
Yeah. Oh, phew. I'll be honest, 2.
Okay. Difficulty breathing, feeling like you can't catch your breath.
1.
Okay. Fear of dying.
Oh boy, that just went right to the
Existential crisis.
Shiza.
2.
Yeah.
Indigestion.
0. Not really.
Feeling scared.
3.
Feeling faint or lightheaded.
1.
Feeling like your face is flushed.
0.
Okay. Hot or cold sweats.
0.
Okay. So now I have to do math, see if we can edit out the 30 minutes it takes me to add basic numbers.
It's a calculator on your phone.
Just kidding. Need to make an Excel spreadsheet. It'll do it for me. So you scored a 23. So of those things,
It means nothing to me.
of the things that bothered you on a scale of 0 to 3, how much did they bother you? So you had 3s for things like fear of the worst happening, feeling scared.
Yeah.
How much did those bother you, scale of 0 to 3?
Well, I mean, they're pretty significant things,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not debilitating. So, I mean, my own perception of that would be a 2.
Okay. So a 23 is moderate anxiety. So anything between 22 and 35 is going to be moderate. Anything above 36 is going to be severe anxiety. So you would still, in terms of the Diagnostics and Statistics Manual, possibly qualify for probably more of a generalized anxiety. This doesn't really get into anything super specific, so we're not talking about like phobias or trauma or things like that. So that more like so it might be like unspecified anxiety or generalized.
And I would say, I mean, all of my things really sort of revolve around, I mean, I'm a small business owner, so
yeah.
I mean, I can say legitimately that there's a lot there. Now, were we to take the PHQ-9, the depression thing,
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure that there'd be stuff in there that,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So I'm sure that there's stuff there. Pretty painless.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting, like, it also makes me think about those things. Like, and I like taking things like this because talking about, like, let's put a sort of yoga mindfulness aspect on this stuff, bringing my awareness to, oh, numbness in my hands, that's not a good thing, I should probably do something about that.
Right.
And that these other things, these are things that I should be aware of and not just like blow off.
Mm-hmm. Right, and I think that one of the things that is helpful if you're somebody that has a mindfulness-based practice like yoga is that if you know these things, not that you want to be hyper vigilant about them and focus on them, but if you know about those things and you know what to do to kind of work through around with some of those things, you can sense when you've started to make progress.
Yeah.
Because none of these things are static.
Right.
In a workshop I've been doing now here, Yoga for Anxiety, the goal is to, over the course of the 8 weeks, see the numbers that are at a 3 drop down to a 2 or drop down to a 1. So it might not be that you come in with severe anxiety and you leave and you don't qualify at all, but we're looking to see, okay, so if I know that I get dizzy or lightheaded when I'm really anxious, okay, so how can we maybe look at dropping those higher numbers down a little bit lower through meditation, through things like restorative yoga. So there's a lot that we can do with our yoga practice to kind of address these things.
Yeah.
Same with depression and anxiety, because those are kind of like the two big ones. Depression is the number 1 cause of disability worldwide. So it's not made up. It's not a thing that's in your head. It's real and it's debilitating. So thinking about, I guess the whole goal of this is destigmatizing.
Right. So what can we do for it? Like, so here's my light box. I love this.
This is a nice one.
And so when I first started Okay, so let me be careful of my words. Not careful, let me be very specific about my words. When I started to acknowledge the fact that I recognized I was having a shift in physical pain, physical emotions, things like that with winter.
Yeah.
Because, damn, around here, we have winter. It seems like, well, the past couple winters, it's almost like it lasts for 6 months.
We have and then we have 3 different winters.
Yeah.
We'll have little teeny breaks in there where for some reason it's 65 degrees and then we're all miraculously cured of whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then it comes back and then it's somehow worse than the time
Right.
before.
Well, and as a matter of fact, so it was, I think, 2 years ago. So my birthday is February 24th. 2 years ago was the day that it was 84 degrees on my birthday. Went up to Yellow Springs, had my birth chart done. It was fantastic. I'm walking around Yellow Springs in February in shorts and a t-shirt.
Right.
And then it snows a couple days later. That messes with you for real.
See, and I can remember things like that too. My birthday is March, middle of March, and I can remember multiple times within the last few years where I went out to to go hiking on my birthday. I went out hiking and it was 75 degrees, or another year it was somewhere around the 80 degree thing, and we went on a bike ride and then winter hit again.
right, yeah.
And that's in the middle of March. That's not even February.
Right. So I started using a light box, and the way that I did it was, so mine has a setting for 15, 30, 45, and 60 minutes. It also has an ionizer in it, which I never really used because when I turned it on, it just smelled like plastic.
Yeah, I'm not clear on that one.
Yeah.
Why it smells like plastic.
I don't know. But so what I would do is I would set it to 60 minutes, and then in the morning when I was doing my yoga practice, my asana practice, I would set it off to the side so it's not right in front of my eyeballs, but I would set it off to the side of my mat, and so as I'm moving through, I'm getting the multi-spectrum light.
I have one as well, and I started using it, and this is pretty common for me. I've had one of these for years and years and years, maybe a few decades. I usually wait a little bit too long. I don't do it proactively, which is probably something that I should work on next year. I start to realize that I am tired all the time and everything is annoying, and everything that everyone says to me seems a little bit off. What do they mean by that?
Right. Yeah.
That's usually my cue that I need to do that. But I do the same thing. So some of the things about having a light box is it's good to have it, like you said, in a little bit of an angle so that you're not directly in front of it. It's nice to have it a little bit higher up if you can get it, though if you're using it while you do yoga, which I do as well, that can be difficult if you're standing and then doing forward bending.
Yeah.
So just as best as possible, almost I heard it described as 10 or 2 o'clock or 2 and 10 o'clock rather than head on. I do not use mine as long. So one of the little contraindications is for some people that might have more anxiety-based depression, or people that might have more of a tendency towards bipolar or things like that, where they might get more elevated. It can be helpful to use it a little bit less longer because the light can be really stimulating. So if you're somebody that can be impacted by that, it might be better to do it for a little bit less time.
And not at night.
Yeah, and not at night. So this is something to do in the morning. So the whole point of this is to stimulate your circadian rhythm. So the thing that helps you go to bed when you need to. So a big part of this is we're not getting enough sunlight, so our pineal gland is not stimulating melatonin at the proper times. So we get this light in our eyes early in the day, and then it starts to set those hormones and regulation so that when it's nighttime, which is also a problem. I mean, it's been better lately, but if it's nighttime at 5:30, that can make it more complicated too.
Yeah.
That's the goal, is to get that pineal gland stimulating melatonin so that when it gets to be the time for you to go to bed, you can actually go to bed.
Yeah, I found it, and and honestly, so there are a lot of things that I know are sort of woo-woo.
Yeah.
This one though, totally legit, and there's research behind it. I highly recommend it, and if you're dubious, I mean, if you've got a friend, like I've loaned this to students before.
Right.
Borrow somebody's, use it for, I think what I read was that you need to try it for like 2 weeks or something like that to really see a benefit.
One day trying it isn't enough. I once had a doctor that let me rent one from the office, so I don't know if other people have scenarios like this or not, but that was how I first tried one out. But yeah, you have to give it a little bit of time, probably being proactive rather than doing what I do and waiting until I'm angry at everything everyone's saying.
Yeah. So like maybe, you know, once we see it really starting to get, when we start to lose daylight more. So let's say maybe even start in November, whether you think you need it or not.
I think that's really smart, because the other piece of this, I think, is, and we talked about this at the holidays, the whole thing around the holidays. So November, December, you're so busy, probably, most of us are pretty busy or preoccupied with all the things that are happening in November and December, that maybe we're not thinking about it as much. So we're kind of looking towards these certain things that are coming up. So once all of that has played out and it's January, then New Year is already started, you know, New Year's Eve is over. That seems to be, I think, when it settles in for people. Blue Monday, that was something that they started talking about this year. I had not heard that before. It's the second or third Monday in January. So when things are kind of starting to settle and we don't have that big thing coming up like we do before the holidays. So there are so many factors surrounding this, and it's, I think, just because of stigma, just because of the way, which is getting better, just because of the way that we talk about kind of like this disconnect in physical and mental health, which is not really a thing, people are more willing to let it go and ignore it, or chalk it up to other things, or just pull themselves up by their bootstraps and walk it off, and there's no reason to. There's no reason to. And I realize that not everybody has insurance. That's a problem. But there are still ways that you can better take care of yourself, and there are still typically free or reduced rate or sliding scale resources out there. And maybe we can list some of those in the notes of this too. Because mental health care shouldn't be something that is for wealthy people only. It's not. It's just not.
And, you know, so other things, so talking to health professionals, of course, and then, you know, things that I like to do are, like, I go to a coffee shop just to be around people, but I don't want to talk to people.
It's just, and that's okay.
So I just want to be around humans, around energy. It makes me feel comfortable. Go to a restorative yoga class. So you don't even have to, you know, in restorative, you're not competing with all that competition stuff that you shouldn't do anyway, but you're not doing like these tough, strong poses. You're relaxing, you're taking care of yourself, feel good about taking care of yourself. And your eyes are closed for most of it.
I was just going to say that. Nobody's paying attention to what you're doing anyway. And I would say in general, most people aren't paying attention to what you're doing in yoga. I really don't think so. We're also hyper-focused on what we're doing.
I mean, I think the answer to most things is it's not about you.
It's what are your thoughts about it? Because I can almost promise you that your thoughts about what somebody else thinks about you are totally wrong.
No, and as a matter of fact, if you were to hear, you know, that gal across the studio from you, that gal is probably like, oh my God, she's doing that so well. She looks so great in her pants. And you're thinking like, she thinks I'm fat and stupid. You know, I mean, truly.
We come up with some really fun stories. Goodness gracious.
So, you know, seek out a good yoga class. Look for maybe a meditation class or pranayama, and that's breathing exercises. Drink a glass of water.
I think
take a shower.
The hydration thing is tricky when it's very cold too, because we feel like if we're not sweating, we don't need to hydrate as much. But
I'm more dehydrated in the winter.
We need water just as much. We need good food. We need foods that are real foods that are high in nutrients. So any of the foods that are good for depression or seasonal affective disorder are just real foods. fruits, vegetables, colorful things, protein. Protein is good. But in terms of the yoga thing, I mean, we talk about this a lot, but yoga is an evidence-based practice for improving depression. So there are studies, and maybe we'll link to some of those too, make this a multimedia experience.
Oh boy, will it be.
It helps with regulating hormones, it helps with regulating blood sugar and your blood pressure and all of these other things that are genuinely going to make you feel better. So we're not just talking about woo stuff up here. And like the restorative thing, I think I was telling Brittany before, this is really one of the tricky things about looking for research about yoga is that in the research world, people look at yoga, Tai Chi, meditation, and other mindfulness-based things as MBIs, mindfulness-based interventions. So they kind of lump them all together. So if you're like, I want to see the science on it, you might not find as much that's specifically yoga, but you can find research that will show you what's happening in the brain. So what's happening with your actual brain when you're doing these things, what's happening in your body, with your nervous system.
So I think, with all of the things that fall under that MBI, truly, like, for example, I love the idea of Tai Chi.
Yeah.
But, I sort of fell into yoga.
But I tried both, and I think yoga just seems to resound with me more. So maybe that's part of it when we talk about yoga, and yoga not necessarily being the movement, that maybe for you, winter time yoga is the breath practice.
Right?
Because prana is like moving energy around in your body. If you're breathing very shallow, or you're not taking, deep breaths with good posture, you're probably not going to feel great, right? If your shoulders are rounded forward, you're hunched forward at your desk, your car, doing all those other things, you're shortening the muscles that help you breathe deeply, you're probably going to have low energy. So you could even be checking out something that gets you just breathing better.
Right.
So lots of different options.
Time is about up. Okay.
All right.
Anything else?
Nope. I'll just try to list some different resources. I think the more that we can talk about these things, the better we'll all be.
Yeah.
Because if you try to keep these things a secret from yourself, from others, it's not going to magically go away. And that's not said to scare anybody. Right. The worst. But it's worth talking about. And I think the more that we talk about it openly and as a thing that is real and exists and is super common, the more we can do to work towards doing things that are healthier and better and help us feel better, because we really can. It's not hopeless.
Yeah. All right. Hope you enjoyed that. If you did, click like or subscribe. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.